Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some more things you can do with dictionaries in Python. Now these are the more advanced functions, but things that you're probably going to want to start using once you go really hard on them. So what we've already done here is we've created ourselves a dictionary of three elements. We have ourselves Jane Austen, we have Austin Powers, and Austin, Texas. Yes, these are different because one's capital, the other one's not, even though you would know that they'd both be capital. Relax. So the reason we're doing this is basically to show one of the first things, which is getting how many items are inside of our good friends' dictionaries. So one of the things we could do is we can use the len tool, which is going to tell us how many of these key value pairs exist inside the dictionary, which is kind of handy. The next function we're going to take a look at is something coming right off of lists, and that's the ability to pop off the last item. Now, the interesting thing here is if I pop off an item on its own, if I type in austins.pop, what that will do is eject that item from my dictionary. So if I come down here and I print Austins, for example, after popping it, you will notice it's going to get a little grumpy on me. And now the reason it's going to get grumpy on me is it's going to be looking specifically for what I am trying to pop. So if I come in here and pop Austin and go ahead and run this code again, you will notice it will pop Austin, Texas off. That's kind of a different sort of take on things compared to what you're probably familiar with over on our good buddy lists. Now, that's one of the cool features. I don't use pop very often. Like I said, it's kind of nice if you just need to like snap something off. But again, you need to know it. So you can't just knock the last item off the dictionary because remember, dictionaries don't really have an order of memory like you probably think they are. Now, one of the more advanced things we can do with dictionary is use our get command. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and clean some of this out, only on account of the fact that it's going to make things a little bit too much stuff going on at one time, so to speak. So let's go kind of hashtag all those out real fast here. So let's say we want to go ahead and get an item out of our list. You already know how to do this. You come in here, you say Austin's, and you come in here like this, and of course you type in Jane. Go ahead and press the play button, and it says Austin. But what happens if I did this and I run my code? Key error does not exist. The reason it doesn't exist, of course, is there is no capital J Jane. There's a lowercase Jane. So that doesn't work. But one of the features we actually have built into dictionaries is something called the get command. Now, get is kind of fun, and you might think it's a little redundant, but it's not. So for example, if I said austins.get, let's go ahead and grab lowercase Jane here. We go ahead and run this one again. You'll notice it's Jane Austen. But watch what happens when I do capital J. It will say none. Do you see the difference? The none there is because it does not crash Python. It simply is a no value when you ask for that specific value in memory. You're sitting here going, okay, that's okay. That basically means my program won't crash if I accidentally grab something wrong. Yeah, I mean, there could be other reasons why a program would crash, but at the very least, you can see that get command adds a little bit of security onto grabbing values out of a dictionary. Now, there's something even cooler that you could do here, and that's actually setting a default value instead of none, which is a total fun there. Now, watch this. I'm going to come down here and say austins.setDefault. Now, setting default is kind of fun. Basically, it gives us the ability to define a default value that comes out of it if we missed something. So if I come over here and say, Jane, you done goofed. That's an interesting default value, but it works fine. Watch what happens if I try to print this again. Austin's, Austin's.get, capital J, Jane. Now, if I run this, watch what happens. It will give us none both times. Now you're probably sitting here going, the set default command should have replaced it, like it should automatically have a default value. But that's not actually how set default works. Set default is basically an alias for our good friend get. So watch what happens when I print Austin's this time. So if I were actually run this, one of the things you'll notice now is my set default actually added that element to my dictionary here. And it added it with a key value of you done goofed. And of course, it printed it with, or actually added it as a none type here. Now, the reason this is so fascinating is if I were to come here and I could come in here and say error, comma, you done goofed. If I were to run this code again, you will now notice that it has actually come in here and added a value with this kind of element here. So when I go ahead and print it, I've actually added this to my list. Now this is going to be my key. This is going to be my value as that default component when I called my set default function. So when you're looking for the difference here, get just gets the value. Set default says if it doesn't exist, add this in as a value, which is kind of a neat little trick that it has sort of built in. It's sort of like an in, if you want to kind of think about it another way. Now, one of the challenging things that you're going to be dealing with dictionaries as well as lists is making copies. Now, one of the things you probably think of is I've got my like Austin's dictionary there. Let's say I want to say Austin's 2 equals Austin's. You're sitting here going, of course. You're simply taking your Austin's dictionary. You're making a copy of it there. So now if you came down here and you said print Austin's 2, for example, if I were to go run that real fast, you'll notice they're exactly the same, which is super cool. Like you say, see, you just made yourself a quick copy of that dictionary. But, sit in here and say, Austin's 2, I'm going to go ahead and pop. We're going to get rid of Texas again because reasons. Go ahead and run that real fast here. And, of course, it's going to get all grumpy at us because that is not Austin is the key, not Texas. Texas, of course, is our value. So if I run this here, you'll see if you take a quick little look, after popping that particular value, you'll see it's out of there. And you're like, yay, I fixed it. What happens when I print Austin's, my regular list? Let the problems begin. You will notice that the 2 different dictionaries are actually the same dictionary with 2 different names. So this is the same problem we have in lists, as you're probably familiar with. It's because of the way Python works, where it's pointing to where it is in memory as opposed to a unique location. If you wanted to actually make a copy of a dictionary, you'd have to actually come in here and type in the copy command. If you skip this one, we're going to get this silliness. So if I were to run this again, you will notice my Austin's 2 that I popped Austin out of actually has no problem. It actually eliminated Austin, Texas, no problem, whereas my original dictionary is completely unaffected. So as you can see, dictionaries are really, really slick. Like I said, they're a little bit faster than our good friends over with lists. They're going to be taking up a little bit less memory as well. They're a little more tricky to work with. Like I showed you earlier where you could use integers as indexes. It's a great way to do it. But just remember, when it actually saves it in memory, it's hashing it. So a lot of that stuff is not going to be sequential, even though in your mind it might be. Enjoy.